Good morning. Welcome to the 2021 State of the Community Address. I'm John Casper with the Oshkosh Chamber, and we're pleased to host this again this year. Usually this is a live, well, this is live, but usually it's an in-person program. Usually do it as part of our annual business expo, but expo has been postponed this year and put off until April. So we're coming to you virtual with the leaders of our various institutions here. For those of you listening in, there will be a time to provide to do Q&A. So we're asking you as you have questions, please use the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen to ask those questions. We'll save those questions to the end. Hopefully, get through as many as we can. We have a great group today. We have Mark Harris, County Executive for Winnebago County, Mark Roloff, City Manager of the City of Oshkosh, Vicki Cartwright, Superintendent of the Oshkosh Area School Districts, Andy Levitt, Chancellor of the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, and I believe Deborah Heath, Associate Vice President of Fox Valley Technical College. She has not gotten online yet, so I'm sure she will be joining us shortly. So we are recording this, so if you want to review it again, you can do that. We'll be pushing that out to others who haven't been able to attend this morning in person, so they can. We'll have it archived and ready to go. So each speaker will have 10 minutes. We'll hold them close to it. You'll be self-policed on that, so we'll give you some leeway on that. I think what I'll do is I'll just go on the order of the folks that are on the screen, on the bottom of the screen. So from my left, that would be Mark Harris, Winnebago County Board. So Mark, if you just want to take it away.
Well, I'm going to focus on some of the things that are new and also give an overview of what's going on with the county. We actually are in very good financial position this year. The pandemic has cut back on our education and travel expenses. Nobody's using mileage to any significant amount. And it's also increased our revenues through the Road to Recovery CARES Act funds. We were allocated $2.77 million. Now, you don't actually get that money until it's expended. But in the end, we managed to submit more than that in qualified expenditures. And when they reallocated expenditures not used up by other counties, we ended up closer to $3 million in funds. Most of it reimbursing things we did with regard to the COVID-19 epidemic. But some of it was used for budgeted payroll, where people's roles in the county changed as a result of the pandemic. So it actually resulted in a increase in revenue, improvement in the budget because of it covering items that were already budgeted. And in our 2021 budget, we actually have the lowest equalized tax rate. Now, the equalized tax rate is the rate expressed per $1,000 of market value. And that's down to $4.95. And we can't find a rate that was lower looking through the budget books that we still have on file. So we know it's the lowest in decades, and it could go beyond that. The way we do that is by holding the operating tax rate to an increase that's the same as the growth in the tax basis from new construction. But then we've also been pairing that with a reduction in the debt service rate. So generally, people's taxes have stayed flat or gone down a little. In some communities where there was some shift between tax classes, homeowners may have seen a slight uptick in their property tax, but only if there was a shift between, let's say, retail because of dark stores, or a shift away from manufacturing because of the lower state valuations on manufacturing property. So the county's in very good shape. that we've managed to keep the taxes well under control. But we've still done some good new things. We've grown our Veteran Service Office, which connects local veterans to millions of dollars of benefits that they might not otherwise connect with. And we now have the second largest Veteran Service Office staff in the state, but it pays huge dividends because of the additional monies coming into the county's economy from having our veterans get all the benefits they're entitled to. We built a new crisis center. It's a 16-bed facility, and it's primarily an effort to reduce suicide in the community, which is actually a bigger problem than people might expect. One of the ways that we've improved the finances of the county is by really tightly controlling outstanding debt. And I can say that since I was elected county executive, the outstanding debts come down by $20 million. But when we did our last bond issue, we could have paid, we were thinking about paying $5 million out of reserves rather than bonding for the whole 11 million. But because interest rates were so low, about 1.25%, it made sense to borrow the full amount for the capital expenditures at that low interest rate. And we're calling 2 callable bond issues that are closer to 2.5%. And those will be paid off April 1st. There's some other obscure things, and sometimes these make the big difference. There was a company called US Internet Broadband, and they were a new company. They were looking for a pledge of some local funds because that would improve the scoring of their application to the state to get a major grant. So we did pledge 25,000, which we've subsequently paid to them because they got the $2 million in state grant. And even as we speak, they're installing fiber optic cable out to parts of the county that didn't have good access to broadband. We joined something called the PACE Commission. I'm actually the county's representative on the PACE Commission. And that's Property Assessed Conservation Energy is what it stands for. And basically, it's a way of structuring loans so that lenders are willing to charge less interest for lower risk, because if their loans aren't paid on a timely basis, they can be put on the property taxes. And it allows for really low cost financing. And it's largely been going to hotel projects, but the North Keller Street Hotel Association is eligible for $4.2 million of that PACE financing. The county put up a $750,000 small business loan program at the very beginning of the pandemic, because we recognized it was going to cause some real hardships in cash flow. And the Chamber of Commerce is one of the partners, together with Oshkosh Area Economic Development Corporation, in processing those loan applications. And I believe there's still money left. The county came up with an emergency foreclosure grant program where there were grants available to people who had been current with their mortgage through March, but had fallen behind, and that they could demonstrate that that was because of a loss of employment or a loss of income from the pandemic. It was a good program, but I have to tell you that the strength of our economy at that time was still strong enough that we had very few qualifying applications, but we did get a few grants out to people that were falling behind on their mortgage because of loss of income. There's little things that we can do. We really have to structure them as contracts. But for instance, we did a contract with the warming shelter that helped them extend their season. The Oshkosh Area School District came up with a wonderful program to making sure that all the kids were still getting the food they needed during the time that the schools weren't open. And the county did make some contributions towards that program, the grab and go food program. And we also came up with a little bit of money to contract for rides for people that couldn't get to work in the Southwest Industrial Park without the Catch a Ride program. And Catch a Ride, good program. They had their funding all mapped out, but many of their volunteer drivers were elderly retirees that felt it wasn't safe to drive during the pandemic. So their costs were running ahead of normal. So we contracted with them to provide a certain number of drives. We were really trying to fill that financing gap that they had. The elephant in the room is always COVID. We are up to 163 COVID deaths in the portion of the county that's covered by the health department. But vaccinations are starting to flow into the area at a much slower rate than what we would want. But the county's received 200 doses a week ago, and we probably received another batch, and I would guess a similar number. And we're still focusing on category 1A, which is usually frontline healthcare providers, first responders, dentists, people like that have to have close personal contact with people that could be carrying COVID. We also have all of the residents and workers in Parkview Nursing Home vaccinated. And I believe they're any day now, maybe even today, they'll be doing vaccinations in the sheriff's department and in the jail. And that's pretty much where we are.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. Again, reminding everybody who's listening in, if you have questions, please use the Q&A button on the bottom of the screen and submit those questions, and we'll ask those at the end. Staying with local government, I think I will throw it over to our city manager, Mark Roloff.
Thanks, John. Good morning, everybody. I wanted to really focus on business as usual. I think that's very important that we let everybody know that we still have a lot of work to do at the city, and we want to make sure people are aware of that. So that's really my focus. Our 2021 budget was adopted by council back in November. Our expenditure increase in our general fund, and I generally talk about our general fund, is a 1.97% increase, so just under 2%. But our levy is going up nearly 3%, 2.98%. And I get asked that question a lot. Why is that going up so much when the expenditure is only going up less than 2%? And it really has to do with the lack of state aid and our over-reliance on property taxes. We still have significant funding from the state that has not changed over the last 20 years, and if anything, it's dropped. That includes everything from state shared revenue, which I haven't seen an increase since I've been here, and we had the decrease with Acts 10 and 32. And as the economy's rebounded over the last decade, that has not gone in turn to benefit local governments. So we go with the property tax, which is our only other tool. We don't get sales tax. We don't get income tax. That comes from the state indirectly to us. So that's still a challenge. On the expenditure side, though, we did have some changes that I wanted to talk about. Public safety, we expanded our body camera program for 2021. We had a body camera program since Chief Smith got here, but it only included our patrol division, just our folks that were on the street, but it did not include their supervisors. It didn't include our detectives. So now the program will be expanded that all our officers, all sworn officers will have body cameras regardless. Insurance has taken a big hit. And I'm not just talking about health insurance, although our health insurance this year, after many years of getting a zero or a decrease in our health insurance costs, that went up 8% this year. And that's just due to the cost of health insurance in general. But our other insurances, including property, workers' compensation, and then of course, before the coronavirus, we had a virus in January that impacted our computer system. So our cyber liability insurance has gone up a lot, and that's a nationwide trend because people and organizations like ours were victimized, and so cyber liability insurance went up significantly. On the more positive side, like everybody, we had reduced costs for fuel. It was a mild winter, so our commodities, our salt, while the price of salt went up, our volume of salt went down because we didn't use a lot. So those saved us several $100,000, which was great. With COVID and everything, that is something that was a welcome change. And then finally, in finance, we've contracted out for our utility lockbox service. You may have heard some people complaining that if you're mailing in your utility bill, it goes to Palatine, Illinois. We use Associated Bank. We've had a good relationship with Associated. So that's where they have it sent. And so that's how we do it. And that saved us some money over in finance. The capital improvement program, I think, is always something that we want to talk about. And some of our big projects for upcoming year, Oregon Street, which is phase 4. This will be the continuation from 28th Avenue, where we last ended the project, all the way down to Waukah Avenue. This is extending sanitary sewers so that we can better serve the south end of town. We don't have capacity to grow much more. John Casper, you may recall that we were at a grand opening for an apartment complex down there on South Oregon Street a couple years ago. That apartment complex would likely want to expand, but they can't because we don't have the capacity. This will enable that capacity as well as industrial capacity. West 9th from Oakwood West to Linden Oaks, overdue for getting urbanized with curb and gutter and sidewalk. Not all of that was in the city, but now that it's all in the city, we're going to get that road constructed to 48 feet. So that'll include bike lanes and things like that. My advice for people, especially if you're commuting in from the town of Algoma, get used to using Witzel this year because 9th is not going to be convenient. Inside town on the north side, CP had a little bit of work a couple years ago, but now we're going to finish that from Bowen to Lake, basically all the way to Lake Winnebago. That's a welcome change for that neighborhood. It's everything: water, sewer, sanitary storm sewer, and whatnot. Moving off of some street projects, we have Lakeshore Park, which is the construction of the Four Seasons shelter. We have some funds remaining from this partial sale of Lakeshore Golf Course. Now Lakeshore Park, I've just seen some preliminary designs. It looks wonderful. We're going to be tweaking that before we get it out in the community, but we've gotten some great input from our Parks Board, and we're going to be unveiling that shortly. Public facilities are a big need, but we have to live within our means. Our Parks Field Operations building over there at the corner of Dakota and Witzel, the tech gave that to us many, many years ago. We've been very good at taking hand-me-downs from our governmental entities, but that is over 60 years old and in desperate need of a new building. So that's going to be done over a 3-year period, 2021 to 2023. The Fire Training Center, that's the old armory over there on Sawyer Street near Lourdes High School. That's scheduled for 2023-24. Several projects are not in our capital improvement program because frankly, we just don't have the money. Some updates to the museum to make it more accessible. Any changes to our police station, we're pretty much putting Band-Aids on it for now, but it's an old building and it's a little bit out of design. We got that hand-me-down from the county. Thank you, Executive Harris. Our fire stations are 30 years old now and starting to show some age. Plus, we need to evaluate the locations of those. And then City Hall. City Hall, we got the hand-me-down from the school district. So again, thanks to all our partners for having worked with us to get these buildings, but they're in need of updating. Things didn't get changed a lot, so we got to work on that. And then, as I mentioned, everything's got to be done within our means, capital and debt management. We have a plan through 2030 to balance our needs with our ability to pay. And our goal is to get our debt down to 50% of our debt cap by the end of this decade. We're at 60%. Actually, we're below 60% now. When I arrived here In 2008, we were at 84% of our debt capacity. We've made great progress, but we're still not out of the woods yet. And finally, with that, when special assessment options, there's still a call for us to replace special assessments. What we change it to is really the big issue. So the transportation fee had been rejected by council back in 2019. They're still discussing options, watching what other communities are doing. Development update, Oshkosh Avenue corridor. We're still really excited about the work being done there. The Town Place Suites, some office buildings, restaurants. You've heard about Dunkin' Donuts and things like that. Those are in the process. Credit union over there. Don't want to do a commercial for anybody. So another credit union over there by the old car wash. We've got a lot of excitement there on Oshkosh Avenue corridor, and we're looking forward to that continuing to develop. I think with the coronavirus, people have backed up a little bit, but not too much. Southwest Industrial Park. I know a lot of you don't venture out there a lot, but the transload facility has been an incredible addition. And we've been, for the first time in the 12 years I've been here, we've actually now gotten more interest in the last 2 years since we opened the transload facility than we ever have in the Southwest Industrial Park since I've been here. What we're doing is we're putting in a loop road that will get us total access to the transload facility and can go in and out with 2 access points. We want to thank our partners with Watco, which is Wisconsin and Southern Railroad, for doing that. Partnership with the county because they support that short line that Wisconsin and Southern uses. Residential development, we're starting to see a little more. Most of the residential development on the single family side in the last decade has actually been in the town of Algoma, but our 9th Avenue and 20th Avenue corridors are seeing a lot of interest, and we're working with developers as we speak to get some more residential development. Marion Road, as many of you are aware, the merge development, working to develop the food co-op under construction. We're super excited about that. That is going to create or fill a void for that, what's known as a food desert in our downtown area. And it's going to be adding a great amenity to the downtown in general. I think this will also help with residential development for multifamily, which multifamily, the growth has remained pretty good. Implementing the Sawdust District Plan, appreciate all the help of all of our partners to get the Sawdust Plan done. We're in the process of doing an RFP for the development on the South Shore. And basically that's, that's east of South Main and north of East 9th. That we believe will be a catalyst for the Pioneer as well as a catalyst with Pioneer. Pioneer is, they're still working on those issues and we'll continue working with them. But one of the things I'm hearing from the building community, and John, I'm sure you've heard it too, availability of materials is really impacting development. Availability of workers is also an issue. So those are things that we're keeping in mind. And then lastly, I don't want to spend a lot of time on COVID response. Happy to answer questions. It does impact service delivery until vaccines widespread. We've reopened City Hall, but our public meetings are still virtual. And we've been busy. Our folks have been busy, even though we're not doing special events. The response for our police and fire has just been different. But a lot of overtime because we had a lot of people sick and we needed overtime to backfill that. So we didn't get the revenue from our special events, but we still spent the overtime that we otherwise wouldn't have done because special events were canceled. Council's given me 4 goals to work on for the coming year. Homelessness, working on the continuum of services. You may have heard that there was a possibility of selling the Cobblestone Suites to a group that would have been led by COTS. It's a group up in the Fox Valley that provides a next level beyond what Day by Day does. And really it's about the continuum of services and what the city's role should be in that. It's not to own these things. I have no interest in owning those facilities. I think our nonprofit sector does a great job. Council's asked me to work on equity and inclusion goals and measures. The council's created an equity, diversity, and inclusion committee. We're going to work with them. And that's weaved into our new strategic plan for 21-22. I mentioned facility needs, and the council wants me to identify a way in which maybe we can get some of these other facilities done. I explained a lot of them that are still we're not getting done. And then finally, this is for our state representative friends, the State Municipal Services Payment Program. It's called MSP. That's to reimburse us for the tax exempt properties in the city. 20 years ago, we were getting funded about 80 cents on the dollar, and we were complaining about that. Now we are down to 35 cents on the dollar. We love our institutions, such as our state institutions, such as UWO, prison, resource center, but we're only getting reimbursed for a portion, and it's only to reimburse us for police and fire. We're not getting our fair share. We need to do that. We're the third largest recipient in this program, and we're getting short at about $2 million. So when I say, why are your property taxes going up? $2 million of it is because we're getting shortchanged in this program. That's my presentation, and happy to answer questions afterwards.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Next up, Vicki Cartwright, our superintendent of the Oshkosh Area School District.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for this opportunity to talk with all of you and to share some updates related to the Oshkosh Area School District. For us, of course, our strategic plan that was created and we started implementing that last school year. So our current strategic plan is it's a 5-year plan from 2019 to 2024. Whereas we continue to work on this plan, one of the things that we can definitely state is that COVID actually kind of put the gas pedal on some of our priorities under our goals in order to ensure that we were meeting the needs of our students as well as our staff members and our community members throughout this time. To specifically talk about this, there are 5 goals that were created when we looked to rewrite our strategic plan. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not state again how much we appreciate our community for providing us with the feedback that was necessary for us to create this plan. But we have our first goal, which is improving student learning to ensure that for all, in order to be college, career, and community graduates. Of course, operational efficiency. And I'm going to go and give you some details on some of our accomplishments within each of these as well. Our dedicated and high-performing team members, our safe learning and working environment, and then our sustained and strengthen community engagement. So as I mentioned before, when we were talking about with COVID kind of putting the gas pedal on many of our priorities within these goals for improving student learning for all to ensure college, career, and community readiness for community ready graduates, one of the things that we early on within our process is related to our digital services that we provide to our students. As we all know, back in the spring, the governor had put the Safer at Home order into effect. And so it transitioned the district into a virtual environment. We've had digital one-to-one devices for students in grades 3 through 12, but we also recognize that at that point in time, there were some modifications we need to put into place right away. Very grateful to our school board for approving us being able to go forward and purchasing Chromebooks for students in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, as well as the approval of the process for us to purchase what we call like internet Wi-Fi hotspots. And that was to ensure that all of our students throughout the district had access to the internet since we were in that virtual environment. So that's just one example. Continuing with this theme, in addition to that, is also taking a look at, okay, how are we monitoring the progress of our students as they are acquiring all of the standards through their curriculum that's being provided from our teachers at this point. So some of the progress monitoring assessments that we put into place across the district. So for example, kindergarten through 8th grade, doing an iReady assessment within reading, and then for grades 3 through 8 for mathematics, only because we have other assessments that also layer on top of this that hit those grade levels that iReady did not hit for us. And it helps inform instruction, helps inform our teachers as to where our students are and where their progress is, so that we can continue to provide appropriate instruction to all students. Of course, we are continuing to our work right now related to equity We continue within our equity framework that we're in right now with our Cornerstone One. Very appreciative of the committee that has been put together for related to some of our equity and inclusion committee that was put together to really get that community perspective on some of the areas of where we know that we want to do better and we need that feedback in order to be able to do better because we always say when we know better, we do better. So we're actively looking to receive that feedback and to continue forward on that. With operational efficiencies, there's been a lot of efficiencies that we've been able to take advantage of. So for example, we've been able to refinance some of our debt, taking advantage of the lower interest rates right now. That has resulted in a $1.1 million savings to the district for our debt that we currently have. And so that's been something that, again, we're constantly looking for ways in which to become more operational, efficient within the organization itself. And it may be that where we're, for example, we've done a lot of things in a paper environment, and now we're transitioning into an online environment. It may be, for example, payroll. And your timesheets, being able to transition from the paper timesheets into an online system for timesheets. So there's a variety of initiatives that are underway right now in order to assist us as far as becoming operationally efficient. One of the impacts also as a result of doing that is with our mill rate last year. So this would have been last year's taxes, or 2019 taxes, I should say. Our mill rate was 9.22, whereas this past year it was 8.93. So that was a difference within that. And we're also taking a look right now with the successful passage of our referendum. Again, thank you, community, for that. Taking a look at how do we finance that again to ensure that we are taking advantage of the lower interest rates in order to have cost efficiencies built into that. Our dedicated and high-performing team members, we are so appreciative of our teachers, of our school administrators, all of our staff members. We really have seen multiple examples where individuals have gone way above and beyond in order to ensure that we're engaging our students, but not only that, but also taking care of our students. Oftentimes, it could be, for example, our grab and go program this past spring and during the summer. I know Mark Harris had mentioned that with that, but our objective at that point in time is not only providing food for our students, but also for our community, because we fully recognize that we had the ability to be almost like a stopgap until other services were geared up in order to come in and provide food where there was food scarcity occurring within our community. So again, that's just an example of, for example, our food service workers really going above and beyond in order to make sure that we were able to provide those opportunities. Safe learning and working environment. We are constantly working on this. We greatly appreciate the partnership that we have with local law enforcement. So that would be with Chief Smith as well as Sheriff Motts. We did apply for it and received a $500,000 COPS grant. And that there's a lot of details involved with that, but it's ensuring that we're continuing to provide a safe learning and working environment for our students and for our staff members. In addition to that, we're also very grateful again for the passage of our capital referendum, because this is going to be allowing us to be able to go in and create secure vestibules for the visitors who are coming to our schools in a normal environment. And then, of course, sustain and strengthen our community engagement. This is something that we're always working on. We want to have active feedback from our community. We are very appreciative of the partnerships that we've had in the past and look forward to continuing those partnerships and having those ongoing conversations side by side with us. Again, we are so appreciative to our community for both passages of our capital as well as our operational referendums. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This past year was a lot of work related to that. One of the things that we heard loud and clear was making sure that we had a long-term facilities plan, because we know that many of our facilities are aging, or are coming on to the point to where it will cause us to have to make sudden decisions when we don't want to. So we're trying to, by creating a long-term facilities plan, we're able to be much more active and get forward facing in order to address those things. So phase one, again, thank you, voters. Thank you so much, community. With this is what we are currently doing. This is our current projects. This is with phase one, which was approved. And that's the replacement of Merrill Middle School, as well as Merrill Middle Schools. And so we will be consolidating those two schools into one school, and replacing that with a new middle school. We're also replacing Webster Elementary School with a new school of greater capacity. So that will be taking a look at consolidating Webster Elementary, Washington Elementary, and Merrill Elementary School. And so Merrill students, of course, will be placed with Emmeline Cook, Reed, Oakline schools as well through our boundary changes. So again, the result of phase one is taking 5 current schools and replacing it with a new middle school and a new elementary school. So we're very appreciative of our community and our taxpayers and all of our voters for the successful passage of that referendum. Looking forward, once we are through with phase one, of course, the timing is to be determined on community support of potential funding requests going forward. But in our long-term facilities plan, the second portion, or phase two, is the replacement or remodel of South Park Middle School with a new school of greater capacity, and the transfer of the majority of our Tipler students. Remodel of a variety of our elementary schools to modernize learning spaces and to handle additional students as needed. And then repurposing of Tipler Middle School and Shapiro STEM Academy. And then lastly is the closure of Roosevelt Elementary School, Shapiro STEM Academy, and Tipler Middle School. And then the last 2 phases, again, timing to be determined based upon community support, but it's taken a look at our 2 high schools. So phase 3 being Oshkosh West High School and phase 4 being Oshkosh North High School, looking at either renovations or replacement of those facilities. So those are some of the things that are happening right now. And again, we are extremely grateful to our community for the level of support that is in place right now. Thank you very much. And we look forward to continuing to partner with our community as we go forward for the benefit of our children and the future of the Oshkosh Area School District.
Great, thanks, Vicki. And I believe Deb Heath with Fox Valley Tech has joined us. There she is. Morning. We will go to you. I think you're still muted, so if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay. Good morning.
Remind everybody questions. Anybody have questions? Please use the Q&A tab on the bottom of your screen. So Deb, all yours.
Thank you, John. Welcome, everybody. I see we have a nice group here of 70 plus people. So thank you, Vicki, for that update. Very detailed. Fox Valley Technical College, we begin our semester next week on January 19th. And this spring term, our process is we've got COVID protocol remaining in place for the remainder of the academic year. We do have on-campus in-person delivery, the majority of which is the lab type of hands-on courses. And we're operating limited personnel on campus for this semester for centralized services. Many of our services, such as counseling and advising, have gone virtual for this academic year. Our contract training, we are doing some of that with industry, business and industry on campus and at customer sites. We're going to be offering a more robust offering as the conditions allow and COVID begins to drop in our communities. The plan for summer, there's going to be a number of assumptions based on the pandemic. If the infection rates are dropping and people are being immunized, we'll change a lot of our what we're doing and increase what we're doing. So really for summer, June to August, Fox Valley Tech will strategically offer in person and determined by the division what we're going to operate. We'll continue to have COVID protocols, um, leveraging internal alternate delivery methods as we have been with the models of hybrid and online courses, as well as face-to-face hands-on. As you know, as a technical college, we have so many lab activities that are hands-on, everything from nursing to public safety, and most of those are essential workers that we're really trying to meet the need in our community. By summer, we should have larger sections. Right now, we're limiting the size of the classes. Um, our outlook for fall, we want to really, there's three different elements to it: restore, evolve, and transform. We want to get back to a new normal, whatever that might look like, but with additional hands-on. We are currently running all of the programs that we offer. A majority of them are online, but we are doing face-to-face. We want to open the doors more to community events and community groups as we have in the past. Services will be more available on site within our facilities. Our facilities are all open at this point. The evolution of how we do business is going to be very important for the technical college and our customers. There may be some things that we continue to do even post pandemic, such as having more meetings virtually, advisory meetings, some of those type of things, more of a collaborative platform virtually. The hybrid and the online courses have been very successful. The student success rates are very good. Some of the other things that we're evolving is the bookstore. We're going with eCampus Bookstore, and that's been very successful. We just implemented that just before the holidays. It's an order type of online service. The transformation, I think some of those things that we will continue to do, obviously there's been a lot less travel for staff and doing the virtual presenting, but we're going to take a look at how can we adjust our programs to better meet our students' needs, and maybe identify more entry points, have packages of 8-week classes, and students may only take 2 classes at that time. And we're going to look at running year round as we have to ensure that students can complete their education in a quicker time frame and get out into industry and be employed. As for enrollments, our online classes, the enrollments are up 43%, and that's pretty obvious that why that is. We've gone to so many more online classes. Overall, the college, the enrollments are down a bit, 12 to 15%. Contract training and grants are down considerably. But one of the highlights that I'm gonna refresh from last time we talked, last time we had the State of Community. In the last year and a half, we've done a facility space study. So we're looking at new Oshkosh program. The facility space study that we conducted in 1920, we identified a new anchor program for the Oshkosh Riverside campus. And that anchor program is Surgical Technology Associate Degree. We're moving forward with that with some facilities projects, which I'll get into next. But the Surgical Technology Associate Degree will begin taking applications for that program in summer of this year, 2021. Students will enter in the fall of 21 and in spring to take their general studies in science. And then the core program will start in the fall of 2022 at the Oshkosh Riverside campus. The other facility projects that we're doing, obviously, as I mentioned, the Surgical Technology Lab, we are going to be completing that by fall of 21 to spring of 22. And we're developing four operating rooms and the sanitizing and all of the rooms and space and equipment that's needed to have operating rooms and for surgical technology. We recently updated diversity and student life space at the Oshkosh Riverside campus. That's going to be completed in March of this year. We're also remodeling this fall, we're remodeling our testing center to expand what the services that we're offering at Oshkosh Riverside campus. And as a relocating of a program because of the new testing center, we're updating some classrooms to add more medical assistant lab environment. So that's really my update for Fox Valley Technical College. Thank you, John, for having me.
Great, thanks, Deb, appreciate it. And batting cleanup, our Chancellor, Andy Levitt from the UW Oshkosh. Andy.
Thank you, John, and good morning to everybody. I'm delighted to be here. It's always great to be a part of this particular forum, hear what's happening across certainly all of our city partners. I certainly want to start today with talking about our sesquicentennial. That's a 150th year anniversary of the institution, which is in 2021. So we were founded in 1871. So it's 150 years. That's a long time. In 1868, 1869, in that time period, Oshkosh competed with a number of powerhouses in the region, and we were all competing for the college at the time. That was Fond du Lac was in that fight, as well as Omro and others, and we were all about the same size at the time. Oshkosh was successful. It was the taxpayers of Oshkosh who really fought for this and put up the money in a special referendum to start the college, then now university. So for that, we are very grateful. We were transformative then. I believe that we will continue to be transformative well into the season. There's some great things happening in this year, the programs throughout the year, and a couple of the major events I want to touch on. And we're going to have a community picnic in September, which will be associated with the 150th anniversary of the first day of class, which was going to be in September. But we want to invite the community to the university and properly thank them, and we can all pause and celebrate the accomplishment of the university over these 150 years. We'll have homecoming in October. We're also scheduled to have an October Board of Regents meetings here on site, which is always a nice event when the regents come, and we can really sort of show off all the great things that we're doing here at the university. And finally, we're also going to have what's called the Black and Gold Scholarship Ball in November. And this is a fundraiser we started a few years ago, but because of COVID, we've had to delay. But it's going to be a black tie celebration of the institution where we invite our friends and alumni back to help support the university. Say, Alex, you got that next slide? We got a great picture of our building. Let me see if maybe I'm the one running this here. Nope. Okay. So yeah, we have a great picture of our old main, which burned down in 1916. And of course, where it was replaced by Dempsey, which is what you see today, when you, there you go, when you drive down Algoma. So this beautiful William Waters building, of course, is no more, but this was the original college. With the next slide, we're going to look ahead to the spring semester. And if you've driven through Algoma, down Algoma Boulevard or High, for instance, this is not an uncommon scene right here. You see students, and you see students who are masking, and they're maintaining a physical distance, and we've really emphasized hygiene. And then we've also had a very, very rigorous testing program in place in order to keep our students safe. UW Oshkosh has really been one of the outstanding institutions, certainly within the system, or even the country, if you were to ask the Centers for Disease Control, who spent quite a bit of time on our campus studying how we did testing and all of the things we did to keep our students safe. So we had built up a lot of momentum in the fall semester. For instance, we were the only one of 2 institutions in the UW that remained face-to-face after Thanksgiving. And with no apparent increase in positivity at that point. That is simply a decision that we made because we wanted to try to provide the best possible experience for our students. We started last semester with about 65% of our classes face-to-face, about 35% online, and that's about where we're going to be here in this coming semester. Our semester, of course, begins on February 1, and it runs through the middle of May. So we're ready for the semester. We hope to do this semester is as vaccinations fall into place, as we can continue to control the amount of virus that we see at the university and hopefully in the community, that we can begin to lighten up a bit on some of the restrictions that we have in place to keep people safe. We really do want to start to approach what a normal experience might look like, hopefully by the end of this semester. I will say this, that at the beginning of the fall semester, we are planning on having a normal semester when it comes to classes. That is our plan. And if things develop during the course of the spring and the summer that modify that, that's fine. But right now the decision is that we are going to open in a normal fashion in the fall. Testing. We're a little famous for testing, and we do a lot of it. We are also very honored to have been selected to be one of the federal surge testing sites that we've run out of Culver Center for the last few months. That surge site will end from the federal government point of view on the 22nd of January. So you still have some time to get in and get tested. And I know up to 700 people a day have been tested through that particular testing center. We are looking for a way to see if it's possible to continue that testing center at the same time that we're working with some great partners in Aurora Medical Center and our public health to establish a vaccination center for the community at UW Oshkosh. So it may be possible in the weeks to come that you'll be able to be tested and vaccinated essentially in the same location. A lot of details to be worked out, but this is one of the reasons. I really should say this is the Wisconsin idea in action here, in that we're able to provide this kind of service to our community. So, we're going to open with full head of steam here in the spring semester, move through the summer, and then we hope that life will somewhat return to normal in the fall. NCAA athletics, I'm delighted to announce that we are going to return to play for winter sports. And these winter sports, of course, are going to include men's and women's basketball, wrestling, gymnastics, indoor track and field, swimming and diving. All of that will begin to compete again in a modified 6-week season through February and into March. We have a lot of protocols from the NCAA. We have our own protocols that we're working on. Lots of testing involved in that. We want to keep the athletes safe, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our student athletes are having some kind of experience while they're here at UW Oshkosh. Moving into the enrollment for the fall, I really like what we see, and I think there's a lot of pent-up demand for higher ed as a result of COVID. So we're seeing very, very, very strong numbers when it comes to applications and people who have applied and have been accepted here at UW Oshkosh, and now people who are saying that I want to come here. And so we're up a lot for our incoming first-year class, and so that's very encouraging for the future. Finally, I'd just like to touch a little bit on the community and our strategic partnerships. it's a little tough right now because we can't meet face to face, and there's so much that goes on in this community that's sort of built around those kinds of events. We've done what we could with, of course, meeting virtually, but as we all know, that's not quite the same. So we really are looking forward to the return of continuing to strengthen those relationships moving into next fall, certainly warming it up during the summer, which we want to do. We will embark on a new strategic plan. Our current plan runs out in 2021. So we're looking at crafting a new strategic plan that'll run from 2022 to 2027. So it's a long period of time, I realize, but it's important to involve the community, our business community, our partners, our alumni, friends in that planning process. So look out for that in the next weeks and months to come, requests from us to participate in some visioning, some ideas that you might have. So this way we can get the input that we need from everybody to be a truly successful and to be a tremendous asset to this community. With that, I will say Hail Titans and hand it back to John. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Andy. If that's all the presenters did their job. Nice job, everyone. If anyone has any questions, please forward those on. A couple things, Andy, since we had you on last year, question came in regarding vaccinations requirements for UW staff and students. What's the thought? I know we talked a little bit about that on Tuesday.
We did. We will not have a requirement. It will not be mandatory to be vaccinated. This is a conversation we've had with my boss, who president of the system, who's the former governor, Tommy Thompson. So the chancellors are all in agreement with that. We believe with the strong recommendation that the vast majority of people will want to be vaccinated. We will continue to run our testing program, pretty much through the fall. And so those who choose not to be vaccinated, we may ask them to take a test periodically if they're going to be on the campus. So no mandatory vaccination.
Great. Mark Harris, question. You mentioned something about the pace in which people are getting vaccinated. Is that and it's been kind of a state issue in terms of that, but is that from your perspective a supply side issue, or is that more of a distribution issue?
For us, it's a supply side. We're not getting enough vaccination to branch out beyond the limited vaccinations we're giving, but most people are getting their vaccinations from other sources. The hospitals have been primarily the source for vaccinating doctors and even the dentists. We arrange for them to get vaccinations through Aurora, for instance. And CVS was actually the one that did the vaccinations for our nursing home workers and residents. So only a trickle of vaccines is passing through our health department.
So those vaccines, as it relates to the county supplies, that come through DHS, or how does that all work?
I believe it is from DHS. It is from the state. And of course, we're still required to focus on category 1A. So much of the vaccine we've had has gone to first responders, firemen, and other first responders within the county, and also some behavioral health people that have direct close contact with county clients, and the crisis center employees also were included in that. But there could be some minor exceptions when you're doing vaccinations. If you have 1 or 2 doses left and you've done the people in the category you're working on, you're going to give those doses to somebody rather than letting them go to waste. But that's very, very minor.
And
Vicki
John,
Cartwright.
this Mark Roloff, I'll just add to that. The first responders are those who are treating people for health conditions. So all of our firefighters, for example, are paramedics, and all of our fire personnel who were interested and willing to get vaccinated have been offered that. And I appreciate the cooperation of the health department. Health departments reached out to the other fire departments that have people who are health related. Firefighters and who are only firefighters are still in group 1B, but all of our medical folks who are in 1A have been offered, and if they wanted it, they got it. So, but it's only like 60%. There's still that hesitancy out there. So But my opinion is that it's safe, but everybody is entitled to their opinion on that. But I appreciate the cooperation of the health department, but they've exhausted their supply. So from my perspective as well, it's also a supply issue.
Right. The safeness is always an issue, and I believe on the first Friday of February, we're doing a program with a local pharmacist to talk about kind of facts and fallacies around the vaccine. Very, very fascinating. So anybody interested should tune in on that. Vicki, talked about a successful referendum. Question is, when does the district project that there may be a start date on some of the new buildings that were approved in that referendum?
So we are currently underway and having conversations internally right now with our architects related to just some of the needs within the building. From that point, we will be putting together some advisory groups and going into the community as well in order to get stakeholder feedback as to what are some of the things that they want to see within these facilities. So we will start right now. The projects that are underway is that we're doing a lot of the infrastructure needs. So that's going to be starting this summer. And we're also taking a look at those vestibules I had mentioned earlier related to the safety and security. So once again, that we will start seeing some of that information, some of those construction projects starting this upcoming year. And then we will, as far as facilities are concerned, with the new middle school and the new elementary school, the middle school is first. So again, the community can expect to start receiving some updates from us on a regular basis as to the progress related to the construction on all of these different projects. Just as we've been trying to keep our community informed and updated on the need, we also want to make sure that we're keeping everybody informed and updated as to the progress going forward. So the new middle school, we're looking at an opening date on that, and I believe in August 2023, and then following that would be the elementary school.
Great. One of your slides outlined a number of, I guess, boundary changes to accommodate Merrill Elementary students, and that, all is in place. So, there's been history in Oshkosh about how well parents in the community receive boundary changes in moving students away from friends and that kind of stuff. Has the district broached that yet and outlined what those boundary changes may look like?
No, not at this point in time. We're very early in this process. And this is something that will be public conversations that will occur during our publicly available and available through OCAT through our board meetings, because ultimately this would be a school board decision.
Staying with you, Vicki, it's been certainly getting kids back to in-person learning has been certainly an issue and been a process here, and a difficult process at that. Monday, you took a big step in reopening. A couple things. One, what does that look like? I mean, kids come in on a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Thursday. What happens on those off days? Can you talk through that a little bit?
Certainly. So if you are an A group student, that means that you are coming in person to schools on Tuesdays and Fridays. You're virtual on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And if you are a B group student, you are coming in person on Mondays and Thursdays, and your virtual is Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. On the virtual days when so for example, whichever day it may be, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, when half of the students are in, there is synchronous as well as asynchronous virtual learning that is occurring within the platforms that we have been providing while we were completely virtual. And so our teachers are a lot of times having some live meetings that are occurring with everyone in the classroom. So for example, class morning time at our elementary level, that would be live. But then there may be some asynchronous, meaning that it's not live, but there's work. It may be pre-recorded lessons. It may be an extension of the learning that occurred in the previous day and working at your own pace at home, with obviously the expectation that you have that work completed before you're coming back to that live in-person session. Wednesdays is a virtual day for the entire district. Again, is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning that is occurring on Wednesday.
And everyone's wondering, when will we be back 100%? I mean, what things have to be in place to, have a high degree of comfort within the district and the community to go back to 100% learning in classrooms?
Certainly. So we do have an instructional matrix that we've been using in order to help guide our decisions. I think one thing that's very important to note is that last night our school board made a request for us to go back and take a look at that matrix as to what would be a comfortable tolerance level in order to resume school. So we will be bringing that forward back to the board for review, for them to make a final decision for any type of modifications that we may make on that. The number one thing that we really need is, we are so happy to see that the community burden rate within the Oshkosh Area School District boundaries has been declining, and as well as overall within Winnebago County. So just continuing to do those safety precautions is so monumentally important. The wearing of the face mask, to make sure that you're doing the social distancing, the 6 foot distancing, to make sure that you're sanitizing your hands, washing your hands or using hand sanitizer. Those are the primary things. But the number one thing that we've heard over and over again is the wearing of the face mask, followed by the appropriate social distancing. So the more we can do that as a community, the less likely we are going to have with cases coming forward, and the more likely we're going to be able to position the district to be able to resume transition into 5 days a week in-person instruction. Bluntly stated, that is our goal. We want our children back in front of us 5 days a week. I can't emphasize that enough. And we know that's good for our children. We know that is where we want to be. And we're looking forward and for us to be able to get there as quickly as possible. So to answer your question, John, kind of in a little bit of a gray area right now, given that we were given a little bit of direction last night from the board in order to go back and review our matrix. And so please stay tuned.
Great. Mark Roloff, question. I know you broached this a bit in your comments. The city council just, I think, a month or so ago, commissioned a study that would address the assessment policy to fund street replacement, sidewalk replacement, that sort of thing. What's the process there? Where is that at? When is that going to be? Recommendations going to be public?
Yeah, well, what we did was, one of the big questions we had when we were talking about a transportation fee was, well, what would it cost me in specifically? An individual would say, an individual business person would say, and we could answer pretty well for residences because it's a single unit, but for businesses, it depended. So as we talked to different groups that were doing it, we felt that it was appropriate for us to get that information to be able to answer that type of question. So that's really what we're doing. And once we do that, I think we need to just get that out there and say, this is what it would cost you. So somebody could actually look at this and say how much it's going to cost me. And then if they disagree with it, at least they know what they're disagreeing with, because there was a lot of uncertainty last time. And there were exceptions that I think left some room for interpretation. So this way we will be able to definitively do that. The council hasn't made a final decision on that. I know that the Long Range Finance Committee and a number of them were members of that ad hoc committee that council had formed. They would like to move it forward. Meanwhile, the council gave us direction on Tuesday night that we need to start collecting the special assessments for prior years. We've essentially not collected special assessments for 2 calendar years, and that's about an $8 million liability that we have. So it's a huge issue that we have to deal with. We just can't let those go forever. From a cash flow standpoint, it makes absolutely no sense. So we're working on that. John, for your membership, once we know that, I think it's appropriate for us to circle back with you and roll up our sleeves and take a look at it and be able to answer more specifically questions that individual business or person might have.
Sounds good. Great. Those are the last of our questions. Again, I'd like to thank our panelists for joining us today. Great job, everyone. As a reminder, we have recorded this this session, so it'll be archived probably early afternoon. You can go back to our website and view this program again, and we'll be getting this out to others. So again, on behalf of the chamber, thank you all for joining us, and we will hopefully see you all in person very soon. So thanks again.
Thank you, John. Thanks, everybody.